Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I'm your host, Garrett King. Okay, folks, in today's episode, I have another interesting little bit of code structure that I have found. I'm just completely amazed again and again how these numbers keep connecting and keep coinciding with other forms of Gematria. So, Hebrew Gematria, Greek Gematria, English Gematria, and now this Matrix Gematria. The numbers just keep showing up again and again and connecting in such a very cool way. And I apologize. I have to say this. I apologize for having to look up at an angle like this. I am using maybe I've mentioned this already. I don't know. A 43-inch TV, 4K TV is my monitor now. So I have no other place to put my camera except up at the top of the TV. So kind of high. Maybe I need to get a different chair to kind of raise me up to be more level. That may be what I need to do. But anyway, sorry, I just wanted to say that. That's why I'm looking up at you guys now at sort of an angle. But let's get back into this code. So I don't know what I'm going to name this video just yet. There's several different things running through my head. I don't know. I guess you'll see when I finally upload this. But what this code that I found seems to be suggesting is that, again, we need to look more deeply at our creation and how we came to be here. Now, I know that it seems like, I don't know. It's so odd that this just keeps time and time again. It seems like it's going back to Genesis, to the beginning, to the creation story. And there just seems to be so much hidden in not only the first verse, but just Genesis 1:1. My neighbor's dogs are out, so if you guys hear them barking, I apologize. I've been trying to record this video and over the past couple of days, then just interruption after interruption, but I want to go ahead and get this recorded. So I apologize if the dogs end up being heard on the video. They're awfully loud. So anyway, it's just, again, it comes back to our creation, and it seems to be a clue or a signal that we need to be looking at this and trying to understand it from a different perspective. And it seems, from my understanding of this, it seems to be connecting back to the Bible code that I found that was largely based off of Michael Drosnin's code that I expanded upon, in which it talks about the firstborn father came. He came here in a vehicle. There was DNA in the vehicle. It talked about him being a foreigner, and we are not. And I talked about that, like the firstborn father coming from some other location. And either he was the DNA in the vehicle or he brought DNA with him and then proceeded to seed the planet. And this new code seems to kind of connect back to that. Now, it's not as blatant, I don't think, for some, as it is, I guess, more for me, since I'm sort of looking at this from a bigger picture. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a moment. And hopefully you guys will see the connections that I'm making as well. Okay. So really how I stumbled upon this code is I began putting in, and I've done this before, I've found many different codes doing this, but I put in the width of 1,369. So I made the Bible code width 1,369. And because I wanted to see what every 1,369th letter would spell out, if it spelled out anything at all. Now, why 1369? Well, because that's the value in the matrix gematria for the word Jesus. Okay? So that's what I put in. Now, what I found is interesting because the first 15 letters asks a question. And what's interesting about the question is, well, there's two different things that are very interesting about the question. One, what the question's actually asking. And two, how it's worded. Because it feels like it's coming into the middle of a conversation. Almost like there's been a conversation that's been going on, and then this question's being asked as though the source of the question or whatever has been brought up again. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a moment. So, and there's like that code, and then there's another code that's sort of hidden within it as well. These bizarre little connections. But the question that it asks is, and the way that it's worded, let me just go ahead and bring this up on my screen here. So let me just go ahead and copy this. And let me move over to Windows really quickly. So this is the JLA Tanakh program. And just to demonstrate, so the matrix width, and hopefully you guys can see this, is 1,369. So again, that's the value of Jesus in the matrix gematria. So that's the width. And this right here is the very end, and it's the first 15 letters. Okay. And it's what I have right here, and I just copied that. I'll do it again in case I actually didn't, but I'm pretty sure I did. And let me just paste it in here. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know. I haven't, this like bigger screen. I hope it doesn't make everything on my screen smaller for you guys. Hopefully you can see it just as well as I can. But I'm going to zoom in just in case. So the question is, and again, it sounds like it's part of a conversation, but the question is, because again, what is the source of blood? Okay. Now, there's so much going on here that's incredibly interesting, at least to me. I mean, the question, because again, what is the source of blood? My mind went in so many different directions, just thinking about all kinds of different things. Now, one of them being the fact that, Jesus was supposedly hung on the cross, that his blood was caught in the, oh my God, the Holy Grail, what they call the Holy Grail. So there's that blood connection there. But I tried not to look at it too literal, but then again, at the same time, I had no choice but to look at this as a literal question. And so when I looked at it as a literal question, what is the source of blood? It made me think of, well, I know that our heart pumps blood, but what forms the blood? Where does the blood come from within our body? And I didn't know this. Probably should have. Maybe I did at some time and forgot. But bone marrow is where blood is created in our bodies. And I mean, if you don't believe me, go look it up for yourself. But yeah, it's our bone marrow. I thought that was odd. So that sent me down this path, which I'm getting ready to show you. But I also looked at it from a different view. And so when it says, what is the source of blood? I also looked at it as not like where in our body does it come from, but where did it come from in general? Such as, again, back to our DNA. And the fact that it's asking this question, because again, what is the source of blood? It seems to me to be suggesting that we need to look for that source. What is that source? Now, obviously, the Bible tells us God. I mean, God created everything. It all started from that. But if we look at the code for the firstborn father, bringing our DNA here and then seeding the planet, where did that DNA come from? What is the source of that DNA? Okay. So let me show you what I did. And before I go too far, let's back up one frame here. So I've shown you this before, but it comes up into this whole entire thing. That's why I want to bring it up here again. Now, the word for blood is made up of the letters Dalet and Mem, and in matrix gematria, it has the value of 629. Now, all we have to do to this word is add Aleph in front of it, and that becomes man in the Hebrew Bible. But as I've demonstrated before, the translation of this is a person, okay? Not a man, not a woman, but just simply a person. And it's also where we get the name Adam, because now it's Aleph, Dalet, and Mem. It's A-D-M. And that word in matrix gematria has the value of 666, which, as the Bible tells us, is the number of man. Now, as I've demonstrated before, in the Hebrew Bible, they also spell this with the letter He in front of it. And when He appears in front of this word, this is the letter He right here. Let me zoom in. It's right here. It's this first letter. So that letter by itself means God, but when it appears in front of a word, it suddenly just becomes the. Okay? So when it's added here, this is no longer a person, it's the person. But oddly, the Hebrew Bible uses this spelling for the word Adam. Now, in the Bible, the Torah, where does it tell us that Adam came from? Okay, it states that God made Adam from the dirt. Okay, the dirt of the earth, the soil. Now, what's incredibly interesting about this is, let me pull this up here in Google Translate. So let's get rid of this. Now, what if I was to tell you that this word, by simply moving a letter, it will become, the translation will change from Adam to soil. So yeah, let's look at this. So let's bring up Hebrew. All right. So we have the letter He. Okay. And as I told you, by itself, it simply means God. Okay. Now let's start putting in the rest of the letters. Okay. And as you can see, it's the person. But again, the Hebrew Bible is using the spelling when it says Adam. Now, if we take the first letter and simply move it to the end, watch what happens. It becomes Adam. Okay? It's no longer the person, it's Adam. But there's something that needs to change here. And it's this letter right here. This letter is Mem. Okay? When the letter appears at the end of a word, it looks exactly as you see right here on the screen. But as you can see, it's no longer at the end of the word. It's in the middle. So the shape needs to change. It needs to look like this. Okay? Because it's in the middle of a word. If it's at the end of a word, it will have the other shape. It's one of those final form letters that I've talked about. There's 5 of them. They're the exact same letter as the others, but when it appears at the end of the word, it just changes shape. So Adam. Whoops. Let's get rid of that one. And as you can see, the translation is land. But that's not the only translation. Let's click on it and move this out of the way. So as you can see, we have land, and then there's some other stuff right here where they put other words in front of it. But let's go down here to the bottom. You can see the word soil, and it's exactly the same spelling. It's Aleph, Dalet, Mem, He, right here. So literally in the spelling, the name Adam is made from the soil. Okay? Because again, all we have to do is move that letter to the beginning. And shit, I just deleted the whole thing. Let's just paste it back. And spell it out. Now I'm going to spell it with the mem that I had there before. Okay. So as you can see, it's the A-D-M. Because that's the letters A-D-M. But again, mem at the end of the word, the shape needs to change like this, and it's back to the person. So again, it's just interesting that literally in the spelling of a word, Adam is made of the soil. And that's what I have right here. So Aleph, Dalet, Mem, He. It's exactly the same letters right up here. He has moved to the end, and because Mem is no longer the last letter, its shape changes, and it simply becomes land or soil. Okay? Now, because it's said that blood comes from our bone marrow, that's what sent me down this path of doing this other little bit of research right here. So the Hebrew word for bone looks like this right here. And in matrix gematria, it has the value of 1,739. And the word blood has the value of 629. Now, here's what's interesting. Adding the value of bone to the value of blood gives us Jesus Christ in Greek gematria. The total is 2368. And that's the entire value of Jesus Christ, again, in Greek gematria. That's the connections. Those are the connections that I'm talking about. Okay? So we get 2368. That's the value of bone and blood in matrix gematria, and it directly connects to Jesus Christ in Greek gematria. Now, keep in mind, think back to what I had talked about, that dialogue that I woke up that one morning running through my head, where it talked about Jesus. The name, the word Jesus, was never meant to be the name of a man. It is the name of the energy source, the essence of creation. It's what courses through everything. Okay? And I've talked about this before. It's similar to, if we were to compare it to the movie Star Wars, it would be the Force. Okay? Now, one of the things that we see in this code time and time again is how they look at the numbers. So 2368, there should be a comma right here between the 2 and the 3 when we write it down. So it's sort of showing a separation of the letters. If we simply add the 2 to the end of this number becomes 370, or encoded 37. And as we know, that number is just runs up and down all throughout the 1111 matrix code. It's deeply entwined into the Torah. We know this simply by Genesis 1:1. We've talked about this hundreds of times already. Now, if we do the same method of taking the first letter and adding it to the end with the word bone, so 739 plus 1, that becomes 740. So now add this sort of, it's not really reduced, but I don't know the word to use. But this new value of 740, to add that to 629, the value of blood, and we have 1369. Okay. The value for Jesus in this matrix gematria. And once again, take the 1 at the beginning, add it to the rest of the numbers, 369 plus 1, we're back to 370. 37. Now, the Bible tells us that God created everything, so I wanted to see what would happen if we added in Yahweh, okay, into this sort of lineup. So that's what I did. So 962, that's the value for Yahweh in matrix gematria. So we add 962 to 629, the value of blood, and then add that to 1739, which is the value of bone. And look what we get, folks, 3,330. 333, the number that started all of this for me. Okay? It's crazy. And again, if we simply do the same method that we did before, take 330, add 3 to it, and we simply have 333. All right. Now, as you can see, I have some arrows with the word add, and then I have an arrow going down with the word subtract. Now, just very quickly, I wanted to show you this. So let's pull up a calculator. Over here, we have 2368. And the arrow is going this way, so it's telling me to add this portion over here, the 333. And look what we have, 2701. Now, 2701 is the value of Christ in matrix gematria. But the connection back to Hebrew is 2701 is the value of Genesis 1:1. So again, this is so deeply connected. And then simply looking at Yahweh, God, plus the word bone also gives us 2701 in matrix gematria. So Yahweh created the bone creates the blood, and so on and so forth. Now, I just thought that was incredibly interesting, these connections. Now, over here, the reason I say subtract, take 2368, subtract 1369. What this is going to do is it's going to show us the spread. Okay, that's the number that is between these two numbers. Okay, what is the difference of those two numbers? So 2368 minus 13. I don't know why I'm doing this on my thing over here. I can just type it out. Minus 1369 is 999. And again, folks, that is the value of the word light in matrix gematria. Okay? It's like the spark. You know, it's the light. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Micah has talked about this, Micah Dank. I think we both have talked about this in the past, even together, where when a child is conceived inside the mother at a point, there is a spark of light that happens within the body. So again, these deep, deep connections. Now, let's go back. So we're going to look at Yahweh, blood, and bone. So again, that gave us the value of 3,330. And then we're going to look at the value of bone reduced and blood, giving us 1369. Now, what is the spread between those two numbers? Well, it's 1961, which just so happens to be the value of Yeshua, which is Joshua, the more modern Joshua. It's Yeshua. Now, if you recall, again, back to the video that I did about having that dialogue running through my head, stating that Jesus was not meant to be the name. It's the name of a person. It's the name of this energy source. But the fact that a man did exist, and this man was teaching this thing known as Jesus. And because those teachings were so profound, that word, Jesus, was applied to the man. And that man was Yeshua. Okay? Okay. And again, the number 1961 is the value in the matrix gematria. So just simply the fact that we're getting Yeshua, Joshua, is the spread between Jesus and Yahweh, blood, and bone. Because I've talked about this. I've talked about this person, Yeshua, who was doing the teaching, was simply a man. He was flesh and bone. He was born just like the rest of us. But again, his teachings, he was teaching this thing called Jesus, this thing that is the energy source that runs through everything. It runs through this entire code, this word. And the number values for this word just keep showing up again and again and again, showing that it courses through everything. Okay. Now, the point of this, I think, again, of this little nugget of code is it's directing us to look more closely at the source of where we came from. And the fact that it's talking about blood, and again, to me, leads directly back to our DNA And I feel like it's indicating to us that our DNA came from somewhere else, not this planet. Now, again, when you think about that firstborn father Bible code that was found in it, it states that he was a foreigner and we are not, because he came from somewhere else. Our DNA may have came from somewhere else, but physically, we were born here. Okay? And I think that's why the Bible is stating that Adam was made of the soil, of the dirt. Not that he was physically made of it, but that he was born here. Okay? He is a product of this planet because this is where he was born and raised. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, how this ties back into the whole creation thing. Now this is it's a code, sort of a code hidden within a code. Let's go back over here to Windows. Now, that sentence, because again, what is the source of blood? That's the question that's being asked right here. And as I mentioned earlier, this is 15 letters. Well, 15 reduces to the number 6. Okay? And it's in the first 6 letters that something interesting is happening here. So let me, let's see here. Hang on a second. What am I looking for? I'm looking for that. Okay. So, scroll back over. When you click on the first letter, now keep in mind, these letters going down vertically are at a equal distant letter skip of 1,369. So the first letter is appearing in verse 27 of Genesis 1. And so interesting that verse happens to be the verse that says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. Okay? So that first letter falls into that verse. The second letter falls into Genesis 2, and it's verse 22. And it talks about the rib, the splitting of man, okay? And when I talked about this before, I talked about it not just being a man, it was a mold, okay? A mold of creating man and woman. Because again, the rib, the translation also means side. So literally taking a side, there's 2 sides to all of us, but taking one of the sides of the mold, one side is male, the other side is female. Okay. But again, the second letter falls into that verse in which it says, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her unto the man. Okay. Now the third letter falls into Genesis 3, verse 23, in which it says, therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. Okay. So again, there's that connection back to man and the ground, the dirt, the soil, essentially his birthplace. Okay. Then the fourth letter. That one falls into Genesis 5, and it's verse 2, in which it says, male and female created he them and blessed them and called their name Adam. Now, listen to that, folks. And called their name Adam. Not his name. Their name. Together. In the day when they were created. The fifth verse falls into Genesis 6, and it's verse 1, and it goes on to say, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. And then it ends here, okay, with the letter He. It falls into verse 6. And this is Genesis 7. So Genesis 7, verse 6. And it says, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. Okay. Now, I want you to think for just a second. What has happened from the first letter to this letter? Okay. I'm going to tell you. We simply went from the creation to the demise of the first 10 generations of man. Well, actually, Noah is the 10th generation, and Noah and his family survived. So I guess we could say the first 9 generations of man, according to the Torah, were destroyed. So we simply went from the beginning to the destruction in 6 letters. Okay? Because now we're talking about the flood. But here's part of the hidden code. So that question, because again, what is the source of blood, is 15 letters. 15 reduces to 6. It's the first 6 letters here that take us from the creation to the destruction. Okay? And then this is the 6th verse. So literally, we have 666, the number of man. And again, the question is, what is the source of blood? What is the source of blood for man? Where did we come from? Now, we could also look at this another way. So we had 15 letters reducing to 6. The first 6 take us from beginning to end. And even the verse itself says, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. So we could literally write out the number 600 and insert the other 2 6s and arrive back to 666, the number of man. So, yeah. It's a very interesting little code hidden here. And again, I think it's a fascinating question, and it really makes me at least stop and ask that question. What is the source of blood? Where did we come from? The Bible wants us to believe God created everything, but yet there's all these hidden codes suggesting something different. And again, I'm going back to that firstborn father Bible code that I found. all incredibly interesting. And I can't help but shake this feeling that it's looking at and suggesting something completely different than what is being described to us in the surface text, which we've seen happen multiple times in the past. This entire thing is a freaking puzzle that I am determined to solve. I don't know if I ever will. Completely. I feel like I'm getting bits and pieces. And just this weird guidance, the way that things just, I don't know, seem to direct me into going in these different directions and trying these different things, these different methods. And the outcome is, it just keeps coming back to this one source, this source of energy, this thing known as Jesus that is coursing through everything. Now, does that mean that is the source of blood? Well, yeah. I mean, I would assume, back to, if going all the way back to whatever, this energy source is coursing through everything. It would be coursing through our blood as well, through our bones. It's our soul. It's our spirit. And all these things are necessary in order for us to live. Our bodies must have blood. Apparently, our bodies must have a soul and a spirit. If not, we're just an empty shell. These are all necessary things. And it's just tying this back into my last video too, with my, when I demonstrated the conversation that I had with my father, and he talked about, them building a spaceship. And I did have several people ask me, like, well, what would be the purpose of building a spaceship? And I mean, I could sit here and tell you that my thought is that if indeed something is going to happen in 2058, and if it is indeed a solar flare event, as I feel that it's going to be, could this ship be a new ark that will take some of us off the planet? Don't know. And it's just, I mean, that whole idea is just odd because of how it connects in a way to the movie The Knowing that I've talked about, in which this exact same scenario is happening in that movie. Okay. A code was discovered, a code that depicted all these events, the number of people that were going to die, the locations of where, it was going to happen. And then the last one was the final event, and it was a solar flare. And there was a group of people. Well, I guess maybe say people, a group of beings in the movie, which were taking the youth off the planet and reseeding them and repopulating them someplace else. And my God, what if that is literally what happened in our beginning? Maybe one of these events happened somewhere else in the universe, and we were brought from there to here. Who knows? Yeah, my mind is spinning with ideas and thoughts. But again, I mean, it was just odd putting in the number for, or the value for the name or the word Jesus in matrix gematria, putting in that value as the width and getting this 15-letter code structure, asking the question, because again, what is the source of blood? And making all those connections. And again, making me really think beyond that. Not that just our blood is made within our bones, but what is the source? Where did it come from? Our DNA. Where did it come from? It's really, in my opinion, it's really starting to look as though we came from somewhere else. At least our lineage came from somewhere else in the universe. And we were brought here, we were seated on this planet, and, you know, the reason is unknown, other than what I just said as a possible scenario. Something happened on that planet. Either it was war, destruction. My God, what if it was the planet Mars? You know, I mean, who knows? What if we originated there and we destroyed the planet and we were brought from there to here and reseeded? It's a possibility. But, you know, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere else. What if it was even some kind of planet in the Orion constellation? Because, again, this code is all about the number 37. And I demonstrated many videos back of how literally the number 37 is encoded in the sky, in this constellation of Orion. There is two star clusters that literally look like the number 37 written in the sky. The stars, the way that they're situated. In fact, I have it brought up here. They literally look, it's right here, like the number 37. And let me just do this real quick. I mean, I've shown you guys this before, so you've seen it, but for those maybe who haven't, so let me see here. Got to rotate that just a little bit. Okay. So we have a line going across here, and we have a star cluster coming down right there. I have this actually loaded into another document. I should have just opened it up, but I just wanted to demonstrate this for you guys really quickly. And I'm doing this sort of quickly and half-assed, so I apologize, but just the star clusters. You can see how it looks like the number 3, and then, and before you start, for those who haven't seen my videos, before you start saying, okay, he's just making this shit up and seeing what he wants to see, I'm not the one that calls this the 37 star cluster, okay? That was not done by me. You can actually look this up for yourself. Let's rotate this down. Okay, so as you can see, it looks like the number 37 written in the stars. Now, again, like I said, I'm not the one that came up with this. It is literally called the 37 star cluster. It's right here. They call it I don't know how you say this word, Messier 37. If I butchered that, I apologize. But yeah, it's the 37 cluster. It's NGC 2169, and it's made up of colander 38 and 83. I found that really, or colanders 38 and 83, so two different little systems here. And I found it interesting that they're using those numbers 38 and 83 because both numbers reduce to the number 11, but also they're mirror images of one another, 38, 83. So in GC 2169, it's an open cluster in the Orion constellation. Okay. And that they call it the 37 cluster because, like I just said, it looks like the number 37. Here's a better picture of it. Maybe we can get it to load. Okay, it's not wanting to load. But anyway, you guys can, oh, here, finally. It does. It looks like the number 37. So is it possible we came from a planet in this location of the universe? Who knows? I don't know. Don't know. But I do feel like it's suggesting that we were not made, because we were born here. So I have to be careful of how, the words that I use, but that our bloodline, okay, we'll put it that way, that our bloodline comes from somewhere else off of this planet. And I feel like that's what this is suggesting, that this is, it's telling us to look into this further. And which, I mean, obviously I will continue to do and see what comes up. Yeah. My mind is just spinning with different ideas. And I mean, it does. It really opens up a sort of a pathway, a doorway, if you will, of contemplating like new ideas. And I can't shake that feeling that is what this is pointing towards. Now, again, this whole entire video channel is called the 1111 Matrix Code. And it talks a lot about simulation. I've talked about that. Does this mean that we do or do not live in a simulation? It still falls into that category, as far as I'm concerned, that existence is a simulation. Okay? It could still be a simulation. All of this that I'm showing you, the fact that, we were seated somewhere else and brought here, is all working within that simulation. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are simply confined to this construct and we think that just the earth itself is the construct and everything is working within the simulation. It's everything in the universe is working within the simulation. That it's much more vast and complex than we could ever possibly dare to imagine. And we're just, again, breaking just the tip of the information. I feel like there is so much more encoded here, and it's going to take a lot, unless, again, the key. I feel like there has to be a key somewhere to unlock all this information at once. And we just haven't found it yet. So we're unlocking portions of the information, But we just need that key. If we could just find that key to unlock it all, then I think, we would simply know. We would know everything. We would know everything. So, yeah. Okay. This is going to be it for now, folks. Again, I'm continuing to just research, dig, try new things, see what happens. Sometimes I start down a path and it just abruptly ends nowhere. Other times I start down a path and stuff like this shows up. Now, those paths that seem to end nowhere may come back later when a different connection's made, and then when I take the end of the path that seemed to end nowhere and connect it back here, then the path may connect and it may branch off into something else. That seems to be how this code works. It's happened before. Just like with me accidentally fat fingering the numbers when I was first, doing this and first just going through all those 1111 matrix code numbers, and I took it all the way up into the 100 billions. But there in the beginning portion of it, I was doing it all by hand until I learned that, the numbers program could do the math for me. But that's where I made that mistake. I say it's a mistake. I don't think it was, because it did lead me on to making those connections with Didier Sornay, the address for the Credit Suisse Bank, their phone number being 333-1111. What are the chances of that, folks? So, again, when I find things, don't just immediately dismiss it if you disagree. Because it may connect. It may connect somewhere later on. And there's a large majority of people that I think would find this acceptable to say that we were seeded on this planet, but that our bloodline comes from off planet. I think there's a lot of people that would accept that. There's going to be a lot of people that won't, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not claiming to know all the answers. I've never claimed to know 100%, 1,000%. I'm just presenting the information that I'm finding. And, you're more than welcome to come up with your own conclusions. Again, I don't profess to know everything. I'm just showing you the connections. And at some point, somewhere down the line, I do feel that we will get closer to the truth. I hope it's within my lifetime. But yeah, I seem to be chosen to do this, as we've seen with the numbers 1111 and those phrases that, involve my name. Now, I just turned 50 on Saturday. September 2nd was my birthday. And I'll tell you guys this little story here and then I'll end this video. But my brother and my husband and my sister-in-law for my birthday, they took me to see a psychic medium. I've never had a psychic reading, or, a reading with a psychic or a medium, however you want to say it. I've never had a reading. And the whole story behind this is incredibly interesting because my brother wanted to do something special because it is my or was my 50th birthday, and that's kind of a milestone, whatever. But he wanted to do something, kind of cool that I thought would be super interesting. So his original idea was to do a private ghost hunting tour. Just us. We could take our equipment, go to some location, and do an investigation. That would have been amazing. I would have loved that. But unfortunately, it just didn't pan out the way he wanted it to. So he was doing some other research and, just trying to find something else. And he stumbled across this website for this woman. And he got the phone number. He called the number. A guy answered the phone. And my brother, I don't know exactly what he said to the man, but the man thought that my brother was trying to sell something. And the guy was like, yeah, no, we're fine. We don't need any of that here. And my brother was like, wait, what? And the guy was like, he's like, we're all good. We don't need any of that here. Or any of that psychic. We don't need anything psychic here or something like that. And my brother goes, no. He goes, you don't understand. He goes, I'm looking for a psychic. And the guy was like, oh, okay. He's like, well, hold on a second. Let me get the psychic on the phone. So a few seconds or, a little bit of time maybe passed, and this woman came onto the phone. And as it turns out, she is an 86-year-old blind psychic medium here in Tulsa. And she literally lives no more than 3 miles from where I live. Now, what's interesting about this is, my brother got the phone number, he called. When he went back to look for the website, he couldn't find it. It was gone. And when they asked him, well, how did you find out about me? My brother said, online, on your website. And the lady said, I don't have I don't have a website. I don't advertise. I'm strictly by word of mouth. And my brother was like, well, I could have sworn I came across your website. And she's like, yeah, I don't have a website. I've never done one. So that was odd. That was a very odd thing. Now, when we got there, the whole thing was interesting from the get-go. From where she lived to just her yard. Her yard is like, it's been zoned as like a natural habitat. It's weird. She has all these signs in her yard, and it's just very, very interesting. But we go in and she talked to us for at least a good hour and 15 minutes, just about herself, and, asked us, a couple of questions. And this lady actually trained with Zachariah Stitchin. Just incredible stuff. Again, 86 years old. And so when she got ready to do my reading, she had to grab her walking stick, and she took me back to this room. And I've never seen these cards that she used, but they looked really, really old. But they didn't look like tarot cards, so I'm not exactly sure what kind of cards they were. But she laid them out in a circle of 12, and it was 3 stacks. Or not 3 stacks, but 3 cards in each stack. So 12 stacks of 3 cards. And she went through and she started just like reading the cards. And when I say she's blind, she is blind, but she can see if she holds the cards like right up to her face. And I'm not kidding, folks. It was, sorry, I'll have some cash sitting here, but literally, like, say this is one of the cards. She was literally holding it up to like her face, like this, and like this. I mean, this is the only way she could see or try to figure out what the card was. It was interesting. But there was some very interesting things that she touched on, but one of them simply was that she said, I was chosen to do something. And I was chosen to bring information to a large group of people. And that's when I told her, I was like, well, I do have a YouTube channel in which I am presenting information to a large group of people. I said, I only have, a little over 3,000 followers, but everything that I'm presenting is on YouTube. So it's available to the world. And she said, you were chosen to do this. So that was interesting. One of the other interesting things was one of my coworkers, my friend, Janice, she sent me a Facebook card, like a birthday card through Facebook. And it wasn't really a card. It was just like a meme, and it was He-Man. And it said something like, happy birthday, you majestic unicorn. It was funny. But what was interesting is one of the cards that she laid down, and it was on the stack that she said represented my birthday, was a unicorn card. So that was an interesting bit of synchronicity there. This card from Janice, you majestic unicorn, happy birthday, you majestic unicorn. And then literally the stack that represented my birthday had a unicorn card. Not only that, it had the Virgo card, which I'm a Virgo. And then the last card was the rat. And in Chinese horoscopes, all of that, my year, 1973, is the year of the rat. So, which is, again, bizarre that all three of those cards fell into the stack that represented my birthday. Unicorn, the rat, Virgo. And again, this lady is blind. When she's shuffling the cards like in her hand, I mean, she literally can't see what they are. And like I said, she had to literally hold them up to her face and just kind of, like almost, I mean, just the way she was moving her head was like, almost like all she could see through was like was like through a pinpoint or something, so she had to like move her head to kind of be able to view the whole entire card. But to hold something that close to your face, being the only way you can see it, and have cards down here shuffling, there's no way, she could have worked all of that into happening, for it to come out that way. Plus, she didn't know what my birthday was. I mean, she knew I was there for my birthday, but she didn't know that day was my birthday. She just thought this was a gift that they had given to me on my birthday, but had no idea that day was actually my birthday. So, again, it was very, very interesting. And her husband is an author, and he actually wrote a book on numbers. So my brother, the book is out of print. I actually have it over here. I would get it, but it's on the floor. But my brother went and searched for the book, and it was out of print. But he just so happened to find a copy in pristine condition. Looks brand new. And the guy was kind enough to sign up for me. So it was a really enjoyable day. It was a great birthday. And that was such a huge surprise because, again, like I said, I've never had any sort of reading like that. But just the things that she talked about, the things that she said, there was just so many connections there. And it was such a special reading, and it was a truly special day completely. So, yeah. So that whole idea of, me being chosen, I've always had a hard time with that, but I guess maybe I am starting to accept it maybe a little more, I guess. Still struggle with it, but I think deep down inside, I know that I was chosen for this. It's just it's a difficult thing for me to state verbally, that, because again, I don't think that I'm anything special, and I don't ever want to come off that way, and or ever give that impression, because I don't feel that. I don't think that. I'm no different than anybody else. So why I was chosen, that I have no idea. No idea. So, yeah. Okay. Enough rambling. I will let you guys go. And I will keep digging away at this. And like I said, folks, I am determined to crack this freaking code. I just hope I can. Hope I can find the key that will unlock it all. That's my goal. Okay, that's it. Until next time, I hope you all take care, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.